What happens when you die? Well, we're going to answer that question in this reaction to the Infographics Show YouTube channel.
I think it's safe to say by the time this video is done, we will know exactly what happens when you die.
All right. Well, I hope your optimism works out for us.
That's a kind of a guarantee.
So we won't keep you guys waiting. Let's get into it.
What happens when you finally kick the bucket, so to speak? Despite our mostly science-grounded views on death these days, it seems many of us believe in life after it. In 2014, UK citizens were polled by The Telegraph, and just under 60% of respondents said they believe some part of us lives on. In the US, still a very Christian nation, Pew Research in 2015 asked people what happened after you die. The survey found that 72% of Americans believed you go to heaven, which was described as a place where people who have led good lives are eternally rewarded. 54% of US adults replied that they believed in hell, which was described as a place where people who have led bad lives and die without being sorry are eternally punished. With that in mind, welcome to this episode of the Infographics Show, What Happens When You Die? Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell button so that you can be part of our notification squad. It seems a lot of people do believe that after death we might be ensconced in some cloud-strewn paradise, or conversely, if we haven't adhered to the ethics prescribed to us by our chosen religion or denomination of that religion, we might be faced with eternal hellfire and the prospect of groveling to a bearded red man who hardly ever puts down his pitchfork. But let's start with some empirical realism and what actually happens to the body when we die. Physicians know you're dead because the heart stops beating and there is no longer any electrical activity in your brain. Brain death equals dead, although machines can keep you going a little bit longer. You can also have what's called a cardiac death, which means the heart stops beating and blood no longer flows through your body. The strange, even wonderful thing is, people that have suffered cardiac death but have been brought back to life have said they were aware of what was going on around them. Others have talked about walking towards a light in such a near-death experience. You can be brought back from what we call clinical death, but you only have a grace period of about 4 to 6 minutes. But let's say you get to the light and pass through. This is what we call biological death. Game over, the final whistle, dead as a dodo. This is where it gets kind of undignified, but what do you care, you're dead. Once you're definitely no longer with us, your muscles relax, and this means your sphincter will too, meaning that triple whopper and large fries you had for lunch will spill out of you. The gas you have in you may also leak out and cause a stink. The same goes for the pee you've got in your bladder. So dying, not surprisingly, is a bit of a messy affair. And men, you might even ejaculate. As for women, you may give birth after you have died if you were pregnant, which is something called coffin birth. It doesn't happen often though. Instead of pushing, it's the gases in the abdomen that squeeze the newborn into the world. As the body gets rid of what is trapped inside, noises may be emitted from your mouth as air escapes. Nurses and people working close to dead bodies have regularly reported hearing very alive-sounding moans and groans coming from dead bodies. You may twitch, but this doesn't mean there is life in you, these are just muscle contractions. You could also soon get an erection if you died lying on your stomach and the blood flowed down there. All your blood will pool to a certain area of your body. This is called livor mortis, and it's the reason parts of you will have that dark purple color you have seen on TV. These are the lovely things that can happen quite shortly after you go. With no
Talk about an embarrassing affair. Holy crap.
So far it's not looking...
Back when people used to like publicly execute them, they'd be like, watch this.
Oh, jeez.
Look at all the crazy stuff that happens after you die. Ew.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Jeez. Talk about, embarrassing. But I guess that happens to everybody.
Yeah. I guess you're not going to be there to be embarrassed, so what does it matter to you?
One thing that's coming to mind here is they're talking about this and like death and what happens to you, and they did a poll about what happens after you die. And I'm thinking like, what do you mean? To who? To what? The fake set of neurons in your head that like remember your entire history for some reason? Like, who lives on? Like, you don't even remember when you go into deep sleep. You don't remember that. Or if you ever been, like, anesthetics or whatever, like, put under, you go dark.
Yeah.
But for some reason, even though something you don't remember after sleep, you will eternally remember when you don't even have it. Like, you still got brain function when you're sleeping. Yeah. But when brain function ends, you'll remember that, though. That seems odd to me. And, I know when people say, like, oh, when you die, I'm not convinced that when you lapse into, like, a moment of death, the brain doesn't release a bunch of chemicals. I mean, look at all the things it's releasing when you die.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that brain chemicals are outside of that and don't give you a psychedelic trip to help you cope with the fact that you're dying. But I'm
Yeah.
saying when death finally happens,
Yeah. It's tough to say, man, because you know just as well as I do that people, even who have been on this show, have told us wild stories.
yeah, but it
of, like,
always...
whole things of that, like...
But it's never like I was chopped up into a million pieces and fed through a thing and then reanimated and came back and it was a heaven for real. It's always like it's still within the range of could have some brain activity.
You could have like calculated it maybe because like I think I listened to an NDE story the other day where the lady was saying I was gone for 3 days. In my world, I was gone for 3 days. Some people have said wild things about like, but again, like you said, it could have been it could have been produced by chemicals that made that whole vision take place. So
it's a really horrifying notion. I mean, don't you want to discard that? Isn't it pleasant to think that, geez Louise, this whole thing that is completely faulty, makes all kinds of false assumptions, screws up, gathers memories, that gets laid to bed. Almost like it's nice to know that there's there's a finite aspect of things, even your identity, even your character. But you don't need to worry about it because the one that wants to live forever is going to go night-night. It's going to go bye-bye.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's a comfort to me in that, but I suppose I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you are like, "Ah!" You know what I mean? Like, I have all my faculties and I'm in a different realm. Maybe.
Yeah.
But like, I've heard Sadhguru talk about like, some pretty disturbing stuff like definitely burn somebody after they've died. Like burn them quick. Get rid of them.
Oh, geez.
Because... And the idea I got was that there's brain activity after you die and that you go through some things. I don't want to frighten people for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
I'm just saying after the brain chemicals have exhausted themselves,
Yeah.
maybe the only one that steps forward is the one that's there already. The consciousness that permeates all things already is just like, yeah, I never went anywhere. You were hiding me in your deluded ego.
Yeah. Well, also I've heard some people talk about death as kind of like it's a blessing. It's the release valve of all the like you don't know how hard your ego and everything is trying to keep reality together in order for you to like function and exist in this thing. And then when you finally give in to the releasing of that, it's like, it's like a total melting away of all the effort that you're
holding yourself in ego every minute, holding your face a certain way, holding your body away, holding your mind away. And what was it that this is something I say every now and then. I go, the point of life is death, and the point of death is life. But the point of life is death. And it's like, that's not an invitation to go do something crazy. What are you, out of your mind? No, it's not what I'm doing. Don't jump to conclusions. Not you, the viewer. I'm just saying anyone that's hostilely questioning what Justin's saying right now. What Justin's saying is, I think the point of life is death. I think that's the point. If you're going to have a point, I mean, it's the one thing we all do. It's the one thing everything in reality does is die.
Yeah.
That's alive. And the only thing that, and so therefore the point of death is life. Jump out of the sea of primordial, potentiality. Do a couple of backflips and then nosedive right back in and make room for something else to pop out temporarily and walk the earth and find meaning in things and pollinate and do all the things organic matter does. And then when you die, don't be so afraid of what's going to happen. Just go, this movie's over. Yeah. But good thing it doesn't matter because I'm one with everything else.
No blood flowing through your body, it will begin to cool down, known as algor mortis, or simply death chill. It will keep cooling until it is the same temperature as your surroundings. You will become stiff within about 2 to 6 hours, and this we call rigor mortis. This is because calcium is getting into your muscle cells. Cells break down without blood flow, and this leads to bacteria growth, and that's why you start to decompose. You may look like your hair or your nails have grown, but that isn't the case. What is happening is that your skin is receding, giving the impression of growth. The skin will loosen too, and blisters will appear on the body. The next stage is putrefaction, when bacteria and microorganisms start feasting on you. You'll soon start to stink as bad as anything you could have imagined while you were alive. One person described the smell as rotten eggs, feces, and a used toilet left out for a month times 1,000. It is unholy. Soon everything that is soft becomes liquefied, with things like bones, cartilage, and hair remaining strong. You're already well on your way to decomposing by the time you are being put in the ground, but if embalmed and buried, decomposition could be a slow process. Left above ground, you'll be a liquefied mess within about a month, feasted on by insects, maggots, plants, and animals. Underground, some experts say it might take 8 to 12 years before you are reduced to nothing but a skeleton. After around 50 years, even your bones will become part of the earth. We should add the rate of decomposition depends on all manner of factors, too many to list here, but we think you get the picture. While some people report that their near-death experience was a scene to behold, that's not always the case. One person writing on Reddit said his experience was as follows. It was just black emptiness, no thoughts, no consciousness, nothing. Is there really something else? French philosopher René Descartes believed the soul was separate from the body, as many religions will tell you, and perhaps when we die, something lingers on. Friedrich Nietzsche talked about the concept of eternal recurrence, or eternal return, meaning all existence or energy in the universe has forever and will forever keep repeating itself ad infinitum. You live the same life again and again forever. Now, doesn't that make you want to live well? Here we can make similarities to the Buddhist belief of the Wheel of Samsara, wherein all souls or lives will begin a cycle again after death, except not the same exact life. Something we call reincarnation, which some people say is connected to what we sometimes call déjà vu. Buddhists believe we can end this vicious cycle if we can become truly enlightened, therefore achieving nirvana. Or do we make our way to heaven after our bodies stop working, tipping our cap to St. Peter at the pearly gates, hoping he won't deny us entrance for stealing that candy bar when we went on a school trip to Niagara Falls? Will we be taken into paradise, a place replete with excellent foods and gorgeous maidens that make your dead knees go weak? Or will we simply seed the earth, our souls nothing?
It's funny, they mention it, like the exiting of the wheel of samsara and attaining enlightenment. And I heard something earlier today where the guy was talking about, like, some people are like, well, yeah, this is heavy, man. It's heavy to try to attain. I've got many lifetimes, right? I'll do it in another lifetime.
Yeah.
And then the guy talking about it, Adi Ashanti, I believe was the person that I was listening to, was like, you in 10 more lifetimes, you'll go, I got more lifetimes. And it'll be 10 more after that. Just do it now. Like, enough of this nonsense of, like, when I die and I go to heaven and I got to be greeted by this and that. And, if enlightenment is possible, just some part of me cries out to go, just do it now. Just be enlightened now. You know what I'm saying? Do you understand what I mean? Like,
if
not
possible,
even without even knowing exactly what it is. That's how I feel. Like, just do it. Just do it. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just be awake now, and assume that there's not going to be something. But
what about also
after.
like maybe like personally for you, that's the heart of your soul right now. Mm-hmm. Others, like, there might be something that has to like lead them to a point where that's the thing that they're chasing, right?
Yeah, almost definitely. Yeah, for sure. You're right. That is where I'm at, and I can't judge somebody that's somewhere else and engaging in some other kind of thought system. Go nuts. Mm-hmm. But for those that come across, where they talked about just briefly there, the idea of enlightenment, I feel like I've heard too many times now from people that are, masters of this, and this is all they talk about. They're like, it only ever happens now. It's now. Yeah. It's now. There is no future. There's no past. It's now. So just do it. And you're like, do what, damn it? If I could do it, I would do it. And they're like, oh, that's the problem. You're doing too many things. You're not supposed to do anything to do it. And you're like, all right, back to the drawing board. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I know the frustration.
More than a worldly fancy that took our minds off our cosmic insignificance and the feeling of futility that we sometimes experience here on terra firma.
And there you have it. Like always, we tend to sometimes stop it just before it's about to end, and then we like go to restart again. It's like, and that's the end of the video. But no, that was good. Short, quick video on death. Really, it seemed to be just highlighting kind of like the gruesome nature of just like the physical decomposition of how it all goes down, which is kind of interesting, but then brought up a little bit of...
Aren't you glad you're not going to be there for that?
Yes, oh yeah.
And it's interesting to me that it was only 10 to 12 years before you're nothing.
Yeah.
50 years.
Which is weird, because what about the casket? Look at those like $30,000... Have you ever seen those like $30,000 caskets that they bury people in? I'm like, how does all the decomposition get through that ridiculous... coffin that you're put in when you...
I think they said it was 50 years before even your bones are gone, but 12 years before your bones.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's pretty crazy. So like everybody past 50 years dead is like not... It's just gone?
Yeah, I guess so.
Totally integrated back into the earth?
Yep.
And your consciousness is off walking around somewhere potentially. I don't know. I don't want to be a scoffer.
Yeah.
Just since we're on the subject already, before we wrap up,
yeah.
I do feel like you can start to get some perspective on how the operations of the ego. You'd be like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. I see how defensive my ego is. I see the losing game of being all selfish and egoic and narcissistic. I can see what's going on there. And you know what? The more I reduce that, kind of the better I feel. You know, leads me to some wiser decisions, helps me feel a little more connected to people. I feel connected to people. And maybe I can even get a little bit of a sense of connectedness to the reality and universe around me. But the stark difference where they go, there is a complete renting, the curtain is rent, torn, and all of a sudden there's no subject-object difference. You're certain, with a knowing, you look at every other object and you're like, it's just more of me. It's all me. I can't say with confidence that I've had that. Can you?
No.
Yeah. So that's the big threshold.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that was a deep one for this video here.
It was.
Hopefully you liked it. If you did, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share this with a friend, and everyone till next time.
Stay spiritual.